everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Arts and Authors Talk Radio. And basically, my name is Kim Ross-Hollingsworth, and I'm the founder of the Arts and Authors Extravaganza and Book Builders Academy, where we provide a platform for authors and artists to showcase and sell their work. Also, I teach new and current authors how to write, publish, and market their books through our Book Builders Academy. And what this podcast is about is I try to find out more information about the artists and the authors that I come in contact with, and to just dig a little bit deeper just to find out more information about them. And tonight I have with me, well, she's a best-selling author, Valerie Stancill. So welcome, Valerie, to the show. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. I'm so glad because last week I was on your show.
Yes.
And oh my goodness, it was so fun. And I'm so glad I had a chance to actually be on your show finally.
Yes, and you made it work too.
I made it work. I made it work.
Yes.
I knew I had other obligations, but I was like, I had to be there. So
Yes.
I'm so glad we made it work. But yes, but I wanted everyone to just give us a little bit of information about yourself.
Well, I am a 4-time best-selling author. I am an international speaker. I'm a Reiki Master. I am a certified domestic violence advocate. I am a business owner. And I am a podcast host like you.
Yes, you are. And how long have you been podcasting?
It's just been about, I would say, 6 months. I just got into it.
Wow.
So, I took
Awesome.
I went to a class and everything.
Well, I actually took one too. Erica Blocker, she actually, taught me how to, do a little bit with the podcasting and everything. I took a course of hers, and I just knew that this was another platform that I can get to learn more information from the artists and authors, because while I'm doing my shows, I don't get a chance to actually go around and speak to everybody and find out what they do or how they got started and so forth. So this was a way for me to do that.
Yes.
And I'm just so happy and delighted to have you here.
I am
because your story is similar to mine, my first book.
Yes.
And that's why I had to have you on. Now, question for you. How did you come up with that first book and why?
My very first book.
Mm-hmm.
My very first book is Who Ordered These Shoes? Because that life journey, no one would order that. And I said that God ordered it. I tried to return the shoes. He wouldn't take them. But it was just, the transition of things that happen, from him getting diagnosed and told he only has up to 3 years to live. He needs he needs 2 lungs and a heart and kidneys. And your husband is not going to live. And I had to push him out of that doctor's office to our car, emotionless as much as I could. And by the time we got halfway home, I finally broke down. And, how do you deal with, I knew something was strange because we never went into a room.
Right.
They took us right to his office. I was like, well, they're going to have us change clothes there in the office. Maybe they're doing something in the room. Nope. They were like, there's nothing we can do. Your husband needs 2 lungs, a heart, and kidneys. Wow. And there's nothing we can do for him.
Unbelievable.
I'm just standing there like, excuse me, do you have a ladies' room I can go to?
Exactly.
That's just like that, and I went in there and I was like, oh my God, why did you do this? Why?
Yeah.
Came back, I asked my husband, I said, you ready to go? He said, yeah, I'm ready to go. And so I'm pushing him in a wheelchair because at this time he's so debilitated, he can't even walk and he can't hardly breathe. And I'm pushing him to the car and, it's silent. And I'm behind him crying because he can't see me.
Right.
I never let him see me cry. I never let him see me upset, except, when somebody was doing something and I was, being forceful trying to
Right.
get them to do it, but I wasn't crying. I
Right.
would cry all the way up to his room, get right to that threshold. Hey, how you doing? How you
Yeah.
feel?
You had
Come
to make him
back
feel
out and
better.
cry my eyes out. And, that was my first book. And so it tells about that 14-year journey and how our
Mm,
love superseded all of that, dealing with his
right.
family, finding out that they didn't like me. I mean, it was just a confirmation. I already knew you didn't. But
I believe.
it's just, people need to know these things. And,
Yes, they do.
Kimberly, the things that we write about are not, rocket science. They didn't just
Hmm.
happen because we wrote about them.
That's right.
Our stories are stories of real life,
Yes, they are.
that people sometimes don't want to talk about, but you
Hmm.
have to talk about it because all of our stories mirror someone else.
Yes, they do.
And then they'll see our success and they'll see how we came through to the other side.
That's right.
Now, then that gives them the opportunity to say, oh, you know what? I can do this and I will make it.
Exactly. Exactly. And, even though, like you said, some of us have not experienced what you've gone through, who knows, somewhere down the line, we may not, or we may experience something like that. And just reading your book could be some kind of comfort to us. No, especially when we see how you overcame,
Mm-hmm.
or we see some of the things of how you coped with it during, you know, him going through what he went through.
Right.
Maybe it's something that will just comfort us and show us that we can do it too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I'm glad that you wrote that book because I know it can benefit and help someone.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Mm-hmm.
tell us about your second book. What was the name of that one? And
My second book, I happen to have it right here.
yay.
It's called My Life for Yours, Chronicles of a Caregiver's Unconditional Love. And this is an
Nice.
anthology. And again, telling my story of my 14-year journey as, his wife, and
Hmm.
then taking on the role of a caregiver
Yes.
and the demands of that life. That is not an easy life. And
No,
nobody wakes up and says, oh, you know what, I'm going to be a caregiver today. I'm going to, do everything for this person
exactly.
and neglect myself. But, that's what you do. But,
Yep.
I gave my life for the love of my life. And I would
Yes.
do it again. If God gave him
That's
back
right.
to me today in that same condition, I would do it all over again.
Yes.
But I wanted caregivers to know that someone hears their story.
That's right.
I start this book out with a prayer for caregivers. And, each person tells their story as a caregiver, the journey that they traveled through life as a caregiver.
Hmm.
Of course, I can't remember any story that was positive except the one whose person that they're being a caregiver for is still alive.
Yes.
One of the persons, and then one of the other authors, her mother passed away since she wrote the book. When the book came out,
Hmm.
she passed away. But there's stories. You think that you have like, oh my God, why did this happen? My story
Hmm.
is so paramount. But
That's right.
when you read these other people's stories, like one lady had a baby that she had to carry her in her hand and the brain in her other hand,
Mm.
just so the baby could live. And she did everything
Mm.
for that little girl to live, and she lived till I think she was 12 years old.
Wow.
And the things that people do
Yes.
for people that they love,
It's
it's
so true.
amazing. It's amazing.
It's so true. And like you were saying, you wrote an anthology about it. Your people, added their stories.
Hmm.
There's all different types of caregivers. Whether you're
Yes,
taking
yes.
care of an elderly parent, which I am, I
Hmm.
take care of my mama, and or a child, and or a husband, and or a family member.
Or a friend. You could even be
or
a,
a
you could be a
friend.
friend.
Exactly. There's all sorts of caregivers out there. And then, like, I always give praise to my sister. She was she, you know, worked in a nursing home for several years, and also my aunt Ann worked in a nursing home. It takes a special type of
Absolutely.
person to do those jobs. And I give praise to them because it's like, you know, I, on the other hand, you know, my stomach turns when I see any kind of bodily fluid, like whether it's blood, whether it's urine, whatever. I can't do it. It's
Right.
like my stomach gets really upset. So I always thank them just for being that type of person that can, you know, give their love like that, because,
Yes.
you know, there's so many of us that can't.
I
You know,
couldn't
we
do
can
that.
give our love, but, you know, but as far as taking care of, you know,
A
people in the
stranger.
nursing home,
A
it's
stranger.
really, it takes a special type of
Mhm.
person to do that.
It does. My brother's wife is works in a nursing home, and she loves her patients.
Yep. My
You know,
sister
and
did
I
too.
could
Yep.
not
And mine.
do it. Yep, I could not do it. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I worked in the hospital, but I worked in trauma and in the
Yes.
OR, so that's a completely different
It's totally different.
animal.
Because you
But
actually
that,
build relationships with these people.
yes, yes.
And, you know, and me, I listen, I couldn't, I would have a problem if one of them passed away,
Hmm.
and I wouldn't know how to handle it.
Because you become
Whereas,
attached to them.
yeah, you become attached. And like with them, it's like they feel a certain way, but they know that this is something that could possibly happen, but they just handle it better.
Hmm. Hmm.
They just handle it better. And I know I wouldn't be one that could handle it.
Oh, I couldn't do it. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Can't do it.
So I get it. And I'm proud that you know, actually put something like that together to help some of us.
Yeah.
And what about your third book? Because
My
you have
third
four,
book.
so I'm going to go through each one.
This is my other one.
Mm-hmm.
Knight in Rusted Armor, Mistaken Identity. This book, wow, this is a workbook pretty much. I mean, this is a
Yes.
workbook. It's not a workbook pretty much. It's
Yes.
a workbook. But it talks about my domestic violence journey.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I share my story because, you know, everybody wants to know the
Yep.
juicy part of the story. What happened, girl? How did it happen? So that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
But then one of the things that I had to put in here was about dating online. I said new age dating
Yes.
because, you know, we as women, you know, and I guess men do it too, but I can only speak from the arena of a woman because I'm a
Of
woman.
course.
You know, we give a lot of information, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because they ask. And those types of predators know exactly the
Yes, they
questions to
do.
ask. And you have to be very, very cautious as to what you are revealing to them
That's right.
because that's what they take. That's their ammunition that they use
Exactly.
for you. And then I talk about the many layers of domestic violence because before I became a victim, I thought it was only physical, but there's so many different layers of
Different
domestic violence.
layers: mental, physical,
Yes,
emotional,
narcissism, you know,
narcissism,
sex trafficking, all of that,
all of it.
you know. And then one of my other things is the red flag. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, for me, like in high school, I went with someone for 12 years. Now I'm out of high school. I mean, I think I'm in college now. Then I met my daughter's father. That was brief. And then I met my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know the little things. And I was 22 when I met my husband.
Wow.
And I got married, no, I mean, when I was 21, we got married when I was 22.
Mm-hmm.
No, 35. I'm lying, 35. Because we lived together for 8 years. I always
Yes.
include that. We lived together for
Yes.
8 years. So all that time you're supposed to be out dating and having fun, I was with him.
Yes.
And I don't, you know, he didn't have red flags, you know, but
Mm.
you don't know what the red flags are. So how do you like be aware of
Yes.
them?
Yeah.
So if I had have been aware of them, it probably wouldn't have happened. And then sometimes what we tend to do as women is we see that red flag, but we want to turn it to yellow and proceed with caution.
That's right.
Or do you look at it as just a flag? This flag's waving, it's doing something. I don't know why it's waving, but it's
Mm-hmm.
waving. But I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
ignore it. But I think if I had have read something like this or knew about domestic violence,
Yeah.
because Kim, sometimes things happen in our lives and it makes us go back to reflect on what went on in our life previously. And I was a victim of domestic violence back in, you see, Kia was born, I guess, in the 80s.
Right.
I mean, physical. Like, he fought me and
Yeah.
stuff. But
Been
then,
there.
it was that thing like, oh, girl, you know what? That's what they do, that because they drink, or they do that because they're drunk. And, it always
Justifying.
seems like a different
Justification.
reason. Right. Instead of saying the real deal. And I mean, he used to beat me good, you
Yeah.
know, and I didn't even, and I had put that out of my mind, so I have been, both emotional and physically
Yep.
abused.
Me too. Now I have a question for you really quick.
Hmm.
What was your first red flag?
Girl, let me tell you,
The very first, if you can
this is
remember, because
embarrassing.
I
This is
remember mine.
embarrassing. I remember all mine. This is embarrassing because he told me a red flag within the first hour.
And within the
I'm like,
first hour of you
hour.
meeting him,
Yes. After I
what
met
was
him in
that?
person. After I met
What
him in
was that?
person. He said, back in the day, because I live in a small town. I think you can see the town. If you stand on one end, you can see the whole town. He
Wow.
said, this is back in the day in this type of town, I would have came and just took over, robbed people and did this and did that. And that's how he would always paraphrase back in the day. So I said, oh, well, back in the day, that means that, he wasn't, he must have been bad. But, everybody has, some
Right.
history. Then he started saying, if you don't do this, your family doesn't like you. But those back in the day things that he said were actually harmful things that he was doing to people. And
Mm.
then as I look back and even talking to other people that, have, my domestic violence advocate, at the center I was in, she said
Mm-hmm.
that was his way of seeing if I looked him up and I knew
Mm.
everything about him. So he came within an hour with like one, I mean, it was, I think, 3 red flags in that hour.
That's crazy.
And, he just went on and on. Then he told me my kids didn't like me, because we're all in business together
Right.
in our building. And he's like, yeah, they're trying to take your business away from you and they don't want you around me. So I just want you to be around me all the time. I don't want you to be with your friends. And I'm like, oh, he just likes me so much that he doesn't want me to be around with anybody. He just wants me to be with him. I'm like, you know what, you're a
So
fool.
so basically what he was trying to do was he was trying to it was a form of control, first of
Yes.
all.
Yes.
And he was basically trying to exclude you from everybody else, like,
Exactly.
and that's and people don't realize that that's a form of abuse.
It is power and control. That's one of the things you learn when you go to your therapy for domestic
Yep,
violence.
that is so true.
Mm-hmm.
But see, some people think
It's
it doesn't
cute.
have anything to do with it, but
Mm-mm.
yes, it
Oh,
really does. It
it has
really
a lot
does.
to do with it.
So
A
my
lot.
first indication, which a lot of people get those first red flags, but they just don't pay attention to them. I was sitting in a car with them, with my ex, sitting in a car with them. All of a sudden, a car goes by, convertible,
Mm-hmm.
a nice looking guy in there. And I didn't think anything of it because I was only dating this guy, my ex-husband. I wasn't with him, at the time.
Right.
So a car goes by and I'm looking, I really wasn't even looking at the guy. I was looking at the car.
Mm-hmm.
But he must have thought that I was looking at the guy. So I go to look as I'm turning back to look at him, pow, right across my face.
Oh my God.
Right across my face. He smacked me in my face.
Oh my God.
I should have known from that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Kim, what the heck was wrong with you? When I think back, I'm thinking like, we have red flags, but we don't
Yeah.
pay attention to them.
And and I also write in my book, there's nothing that we did or do that warrants their behavior.
It's not.
But what we need to own is the emotional issue. Like, what was going on in your life that you couldn't see it? Were you vulnerable?
That's
Were you
right.
looking for love? Were you lonely? That you need to accept and
Exactly.
understand why you allowed it to happen, why you didn't
That's
see
right.
the red flags.
That's
Because
right.
for me, it was, I was it was 5 years since my husband had passed, so now I decided I want to date.
Right.
And I was like, I'm gonna get married again. I don't want to be by myself. So I
Right.
was vulnerable and I was lonely.
Yes.
So, and I met him, and we talked a long time on the phone first before we met. And then when he came correct, because he came exactly with the way I told him
That's
to.
right.
And then
But you have to learn, and this is what my mom told me. And now this is after that relationship, the second one, because basically what we don't do is we don't listen to our parents. First of all, we don't listen, or our friends. We don't listen because we're so hard-headed and we think we know everything.
Yep.
And we like most people will tell you, oh, you can talk till you're blue in the face, but unless that person is ready to leave that relationship, or that person is ready to get out of that, they don't want to take it anymore, you're just talking because it's going in one ear and right out the other.
And that's the key word, when they are ready.
They have to be ready.
They have to be ready.
And if they're not, oh well, you can just keep talking because they're not listening to you.
And and the thing is that, I also have a pledge in here. I want to read that real quick because it's just so crazy that, this is the pledge. I will not judge women, men, or children who are involved in domestic violence relationships. I will listen and make myself available to friends or family in this situation. I will store items and or assist with a plan of escape when they are ready to leave. And then you have to sign it. Because it's when they are ready, but be their friend, be their listening ear. Say, look, girlfriend, if you want to, let's work on a plan of escape when you're ready to leave. Give me all your important papers, any bank information, any extra keys, your clothes, so that when you're ready to make that run, you got clothes. Anything that you need, I will do for you.
I think that's the best advice. The best advice.
Other than that, let them make the decision, but you just be ready when they're ready to make that move.
Amen. That is so perfect, because that's exactly true. Unless they're ready, they're not going to. But once you go through what you've gone through, you best believe it may not be another time that you will have to go through that again.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be like, you're going to keep repeating that same pattern. No. Because once I learned, and like I said, my mom told me, you teach someone the way that you want to be treated.
Exactly.
If you don't want to be treated a certain way, you better nip it in the bud when you first meet that person.
And the thing for me, which was horrible, was I had to go to family court, for him, and I had to go to criminal court because he was a criminal.
Mine too.
Long time criminal.
Yeah, mine too.
And it's not fun. And the way they treat us, the victim. Is that okay with you, Mr. Whatever, whatever? I'll say Mr. Jones. Is that okay with you, Mr. Jones? Can you come back on that day? Excuse me?
Yes.
Mr. Jones, can you afford those payment arrangements that he never paid? So what difference
Exactly.
did it make what payment arrangements he had? Well, and I'm like, well, can I say something? No, you can't say anything.
Mm-mm.
Did I ask you that? That
Mm-mm.
goes with the question that you asked me.
That's right.
I didn't ask you that. Just answer yes or no.
Mm.
I mean, humiliating,
Yeah.
and you're afraid, you're intimidated already, you're scared,
Yep.
he's there, and you gotta look at him,
Exactly.
and
Well,
he's a
you
big guy,
actually
so I
went
was
to court.
afraid.
I actually, a lot of people, thanks, Ava. I love your questions, Ava. Thank you. Keep them coming because we're going to try to answer them as best we can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my ex-husband, I actually would not listen to the red flags. I mean, the red flags kept coming, and I wasn't listening. So I had to literally get in trouble, behind his mess in
Mm-hmm.
order for me to listen. And God had to literally, I wasn't listening. God had to literally seclude me from everybody. Everybody. So I got locked
Mm-hmm.
up behind his mess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was locked up 22 days. And guess when they finally released me? And I was locked up over a bad check that, was written because he wanted some speakers and wouldn't take the darn speakers back. It was a whole big mess. I read
Right.
the book. But until I made up in my mind that I was going to leave this man alone, that's when the very next day they opened the door and let me out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I said, God, I said, if you let me out of this jail, I will not be with this man ever again. I'm tired. I'm fed up. And like different things was happening within that 20 days. My phone got turned off. My mom was a
Mm-hmm.
correction officer, so she couldn't receive any calls from me. And this was back
Mm-hmm.
in my 20s.
Yeah.
Um, I couldn't receive phone calls, call her. My sister came and visited me as much as she could. My aunt, she came. But until I made up in my mind that I was going to leave this man alone, that's when they let me out.
Yeah. It's
The very
crazy.
next day,
It's
I packed
crazy.
up his truck, took his stuff, took it to his job, had my mom follow me, and I dropped that car off, and that was it.
And that's all she
And
wrote. And then your
that
life
was it.
changed from that point on.
And guess what? When we step out on faith and we do what we're supposed to do, everything. I was losing my place because he didn't pay the rent.
Girl,
My
please.
car, I had given my car to his mom. And I was driving one of his cars. So I didn't have a car. I didn't have money. I lost my job, of course. I'm sitting in jail for 22 days.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as I made up my mind and dropped that car off, somebody wound up giving me my rent. My rent was paid. My mom bought a new car, gave me her other car. I wound up with another job. So that's why I say when we're obedient and we
Yeah.
do what we're supposed to do, everything else will start falling into place.
Yep.
But
And
we have to
that's so
listen.
true. Yep, that is
We
so
have to
true.
listen. And I'm quite sure
Kim,
the same thing happened with you
I'm
or
telling you,
something
I'll never
similar.
forget. Yep, I'll never forget. I watched him walk down the hall. And by this time I'm really afraid of him because some other things had transpired that made me very afraid of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching him walk down the hall and I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So I had made this like tentative plan that Wednesday with the apartments to come change the lock because on Wednesdays he went to the city, to New York.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, so that'll be good. He'll be gone. I'll have him change the locks. He can't get in. So I told God that Sunday night, I said, God, I said, here we go. I said, okay, I'm going to just say this. I didn't ask you about getting in this situation. I got in this situation without praying, without asking you anything. But right now, I need you to get me out of this
That's
because,
right.
I'm really afraid. That was Sunday. Tuesday, I'm going to school. And I would always go from my job to school because I went to school in Philly, and the school was in a residential area. So I would always leave early so I could get a place to park.
Right.
So I heard him say, "Go home." And I'm like, no. And this is how I talk to God and the Holy Spirit.
Right.
No, I'm not going home because I got to go to Philly and I got to get a parking space. You know it. You already know.
Right.
So I'm driving. I'm going to Philly. Go home 3 times.
What?
Third time I was like, all right, I'm going home. So he had this book that would be out on the table when he was here. But when I came home, he would put it away. But he wouldn't like grab it and put it away.
Right, right.
He would just
Slowly,
talk and be
nonchalantly.
like, put it in the book and the thing. Never when he left here was it left here. It wasn't out. If he went to the bathroom and I was here, the Holy Spirit said, "Go in the room. The book is in there." And I'm like, "The book ain't in there." So I go in the room. I'm looking. I said, "It's no book." Open the drawer. I mean, it was like I could hear him just like I can hear
just
you.
guiding you.
Yep. Open the drawer. So in the drawer, his clothes were on top of this much, like a little edge was sticking out. Like it was one of them, the composition books with the black, marble like we had in school.
Right. I know what you're talking about.
So that little tip was hanging. I was, oh my God, the book. So now I'm scared. And the Holy Spirit was like, look through the book. Look, Kim, I'm like this. Okay, I look. Because I'm scared. Because he was real big. He was a big guy. And I'm like, okay, I'm putting it back. He's like, look in the book. Girl, I was like, okay, I'm going to look. So this time I actually, looked. I was like, oh my God. Kim, like the first 10 pages were women descriptions. Sexy as hell. She got money. He had women that were Grammy Award winners, people that were on America's Got Talent.
What?
One girl was on that when Sean Combs did that music thing. One of them from off of there.
What?
People who, I mean, like high, women, lawyers, all that, with a description of each. And I'm like, where's my description at? So I must have been in another book. So as I'm continuing to look through the book, I find a yellow, a piece of yellow paper, folded up real nice. It was my wedding rings. He had pawned them. I didn't even know he had done that. And my husband had, he knew the story. My husband bought them for me 10 days before he passed away. He was determined to go to the mall. My husband never goes to the mall. He's like, take me to the mall. I want to make sure that I get you this new ring, for our anniversary, because our anniversary was coming up. But he didn't pawn them. He, I guess, turned them in and got money for them. So I still had 30 days to get these rings out.
Right.
So I had to get a detective here that could get a detective in New York to go to the pawn shop. I had to prove they were my rings. I mean, it was a fiasco. I had to get a subpoena, all that.
You know what? I'm sorry to cut you off real quick, but when I say that I am really a spiritual person. And I mean, I talk to God, but I am a spiritual person. And I do believe that anything that's done in the dark, it will eventually come to light.
Yes.
But one thing that stood out to me was when you said that you found that yellow paper. I don't know if you believe, like I believe, but your ex-husband sent you to that darn book.
Yes. I believe it.
I believe he was watching. He knew, because you only had 30 more days to get those rings out.
Yeah, and it was less than 30 days. Because that was when do you know when he took them, Kim?
No.
The first weekend he was with me. The first weekend.
That's
he
crazy.
Stole my phones from my business. He took my clients' credit card information. 2 pages of that he had in that book. Then he would, like, say you were, you needed immigration papers. he had these forms, blank forms, and he would say, Kim, I can get you your immigration papers, pay me such this amount of money,
See?
sign the papers. They were all,
He
not
was just
legitimate
a
documents.
con
Yes,
artist.
yes.
Any way he
I'm
can get
telling
money, he was
you,
doing it.
and all of that was in that book. All of that, and and then there was manila envelopes in there too that had all that stuff in there.
Unbelievable.
And I'm like, I could have been, they could have said I was associated with that. I was a
Yeah.
part in that.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Trust
it
me.
was horrible. It was
And
horrible.
thank God you didn't get caught up the way that I did. But
Because I
I
thought
do
I was going to
believe,
jail.
yeah, you couldn't. Yeah. Because if you didn't find, and just like I said, though, that yellow paper, less than 30 days. And now look, you could have got caught up behind all of that.
Yes. And they wouldn't, and like the detectives took, like I had his phones, I had his he had like 3 laptops, I had all that, turned it in. Girl, then we had to bring the shoes, bring his clothes to the police station. I went to get the shoes he had up in the closet.
Don't tell me you
Inside
found
one of the
stuff in that
boxes,
too.
my jewelry, my other jewelry was in the shoe.
Wow.
So I asked him, I said, why was my jewelry in your shoe? You know what, babe? It was broken. So what I was trying to do, I was trying to surprise you and go get it fixed. I said, well, were they fixing it in the shoe? Because it's in the shoe.
So over
You
the
had
life,
taken all of that.
it's crazy though. But over that time frame, how long were you with him throughout the whole duration?
About 3 months.
So all
Thank
this
God.
stuff took place in 3 months.
In 3 months. Can you
So
imagine what
he was
happened?
setting you up from the door.
Mm-hmm. And my domestic violence advocate, because then he started, when I was saying I became afraid of him, he started threatening me, like in my face, like cussing at me. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have meant them. Or if it wasn't for you, and F you and F you this, and you're so effing stupid and blah, 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 blah. So, and in my face, now I'm 6'1".
Yeah.
And he was like 6'6" and
Dang.
big. Like when he walked, it was a boom, 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 boom. And he's in my face like that. So I was afraid.
Right.
So I was just, and then when it came time, and God acted so swiftly, so quickly. When I asked him, he was like, all right, I'm gonna let you just see what I'm gonna do. Tuesday, police were here. He was gone.
Yes.
Arrested in jail, for like 5 minutes. And but he was in jail,
Right.
and I think nobody ever did that. They just usually they just let them, the women let them go because they just get so frustrated.
Right.
I was like, no.
Yeah. So now he has a record. So which is probably going to follow him. He probably had one before
No,
that
child,
too.
he has
But,
a big time record. He had just gotten out of jail, Kim, when he met me.
See, it was all a game. Because I do believe, like I was with my ex for almost 9 years, and I believe the whole time it was a game. It was all because he had different women in between that whole time frame, but I was just in denial and didn't know. And then when I did find out, certain ones told me, it just went over my head, and I was like, okay, because he wound up staying with me, so I'm thinking that I won like a dummy.
Yeah, what did we win? Yeah, what did we win? We won the grand prize. See, that's what it says.
But you learn, you live and you learn. And this is something that we can teach others, that you can overcome these things.
Yes.
But you have to pay attention to the red flags. And
because
the first time,
they are there.
Yes, they're there. We just don't pay attention. And if we just pay attention to these red flags, we can avoid a lot of unnecessary circumstances. And we don't have to go through these things. Or if we have questions, these are the conversations that we need to be having.
Right.
So that we don't continue to go down those roads. It's now, hard. What about your last book?
So my book that's coming out on April the 25th is called Breaking the Silence, Remove the Mask and Heal. Because so many times, I have this thing about this strong woman thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a strong woman to me, how I visualize a strong woman before this.
Exactly.
We always say, oh, I'm a strong woman. I don't need you to help me. I don't need you to do this. I don't need this. I
Mm-hmm.
don't need, I don't need, I don't need.
Right.
So all that time, you're just keeping everything inside.
Bottled up.
What goes on here stays here. I'm too embarrassed to talk about it, so I won't. I don't
Yes.
want nobody to know, so I don't let anybody know.
Yes.
To me, that's a misconception of a strong woman.
Yes, it is.
To me, a strong woman is the woman who will ask for help.
Yep.
A woman who is not ashamed and embarrassed about the things that went on, that she can get help again.
I
I mean, it's
agree.
all about getting help
Yep.
and
I
putting
agree.
yourself out there and being authentic and being transparent. Not all this, everything is a secret. Don't tell nobody, because you
That's
know what
right.
you're doing? Stressing yourself out,
Yep.
causing your own demise, causing
That's
your
it.
own sickness, causing your own adrenal fatigue, causing your
Yep.
own stress, causing your own depression, because
That's
you
right.
don't want to get no help because you're a
That's
strong
it.
woman.
Yep.
Wrong answer. Wrong answer.
That's right.
And
Yes.
it's just, we have to change the narrative. We have to change our thinking,
That's it.
and be more cognizant of us, and taking care of us and our self-care, and not
That's
thinking
right.
that it's selfish or anything along those lines. Because if I hadn't have to get therapy, because I didn't want it, because I'm a strong woman, I don't need it.
Yep.
um, I don't require help.
It's so true.
If I hadn't have gotten therapy, if I hadn't have learned how to do meditation, if I hadn't learned how to do deep breathing and Reiki and all the different things that I do, and write these books, because writing is therapeutic,
It's very therapeutic.
you know, that is a strong woman
That is
that
to
can
me is a
admit
strong
that.
woman as well.
Yes, yes. But all
It
that,
really is.
keeping everything a secret, don't tell nobody, because what happened here stays here.
That's
And
right.
then, no, because you know what? I want to tell my story,
That's
because
it.
I want to be able to help another woman. Because one of my biggest mantras is, what I've been through will help you get through.
Yes.
Why you got to go through it? I went through it. Let me help you. Let me help
Exactly.
you, girl. Let me help you.
Exactly.
You know,
It's so
it's
true.
crazy.
And each one teach one.
Yes,
Each one
yes,
teach one. And it doesn't only pertain to business. It pertains to life. Some
exactly.
of the things that we went through, didn't only affect us. If you have children, it affects your children. If you
Mhm.
have parents, it affects your parents. If you have siblings, it affects your siblings. My siblings had to help me a number of times,
Yes,
you
yes.
know, and my
My
mom put
kids
her
had
through
to
all
help
that
me.
anguish.
Yes,
My kids going through what they went through, from pillow to
absolutely.
post, living pillow to post, and dealing with all the violence and stuff.
Hmm.
They didn't have to go through that stuff, and then they can. My girls right now can write their own books
Yeah,
on some of the stuff that I've gone through. They probably didn't understand everything, but they can tell their version of it.
right.
You
And
know
they also learned a lesson of what not to do.
exactly.
Even though it was not a pleasant way to learn it,
That's right.
but they learned it. And that's one of the things that, I mean, this is not my expertise. This is not my lane, but
Hmm.
um women need to be that mentor, needs to be that guidance for
That's
these
right.
young girls, so that they don't go through the stuff that we went through.
That's right.
Start right now, so that when you become a teenager, a young adult, and a young woman, and then going into full
That's right.
womanhood, you're going through it with so much less, trauma situations,
Yes.
issuations, and you're living your life the way you were called to live it,
That's right.
without any of this stupid drama,
That's right.
that we have gone through, and it's like, when you listen to stars talk about, oh, I won an Academy Award, and Sidney Poitier, paved the way for me, and
Hmm.
all those other actors and actresses paved the way. We as strong women, you, Kim, I, other women of domestic violence, other women who had life situations.
Yes.
We are the people that paved the way for them to not go through what we've
gone through. That's right.
But you don't want to listen to us because, when I was young, our parents would tell us stuff, and I'm like, what does she know? I'm 15.
I know where you're going with it.
And she's 50-something. She don't know what I'm doing. Yep. She don't know nothing about it. Okay, yep. No, she knows all about it.
Or it's different. Your situation is different than what my situation is.
Yes.
No, it's all the same. Domestic violence is all the same. It don't matter it doesn't matter if it's emotional. It doesn't matter if he never laid a hand on you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way he talk to you.
Yes. Yes.
The way he treats you. If you tell him over and over again to stop doing a certain thing to you and he continues to do it, that's a form of domestic violence.
Yes. And like you, I had just bought a car. He was paying my car payment. So what he would do, he would pay the car payment in front of me, or I'm here somewhere in the house. I can hear him. So about a week later, I get a thing. Oh, the check was returned. I'm like, what are you talking about? I got the confirmation number. That means nothing because he what he would do? He would pay it and reverse it.
What?
Like I would hear him pay it. He did that with the car. He did that with the phone. I told him just pay that, and thank God I paid the rent because I could have never caught that up. What? But my car, I was getting ready to lose the car because so many payments had, transpired that weren't paid. Then I wasn't allowed to pay my car online anymore. I had to pay to talk to somebody.
Because he spoiled that part for you.
Girl, look, he just ruined everything.
Unbelievable.
But you know what? I said, you know what, God, we're gonna bounce right on back. And that's exactly what I did, and you too,
Yes.
And the only bad thing is, that some, unfortunately and regrettably, some women don't get to do that, because they're no longer here.
That's right.
Because they felt, to their demise at the hands of their predators, or, they feel as though they can't make it without them, even though they know that it's wrong. They'll leave and they go back.
Yep.
Because it's better than not having a place for their kids, not having food, not having a place to live, not having money, and I think, and you really, really have to empathize with them because
yes, you do.
I feel, because the therapy I was going to was, of course, with all other women that were victims of domestic violence.
Yes.
They are doing what is best for their children. So they're being selfless.
Yep.
To go back and do that and let them, beat them and treat them like crap.
Yes.
So that their kids can have, but then it's a catch-22 because on the other hand, the children are exposed to that violence.
Exactly.
But she's doing the best that she feels as though she can.
And I agree with you because thank God I didn't have kids by my second husband. And I think what you're saying, it made it a little bit easier for me to just go my separate way.
Mm-hmm.
So I do understand exactly what you mean by what you just said, because had I had kids by him, I don't think it would have been as easy.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
They
know all that. They know all that.
They do know.
They know all that.
So to me, it's a whole other issue that I didn't have to go through. And that's why I tell people all the time, tell your story.
Yes.
Tell your story because it could resonate with someone else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's that part that you just mentioned. If you have children by them, that's something that doesn't, apply to me. Mm-hmm. But had I had kids, look at that's a whole nother issue that could help someone else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
it's horrible.
Continue to write these books, ladies, because I know there's some listeners out there And if you are going through any of this, or even if you're not going through, like Ava mentioned, you guys are talking about situations that I'm going to avoid having to go through. You're teaching me something that I can avoid having to go through. And then there's some out there that have gone through it or is still in the situation. So hopefully our stories can hit close, can help
Yes,
someone. Help
yes, yes,
someone.
yes, 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 definitely.
And Valerie, tell us where we can get your books. Tell us where we can get your books, and if you can, write them in the comment section so
Okay, I
that
will.
you know we
You
can
can,
get your books. But before you do that, let me see what Ava had to say. She said, the key had been dealing with a narcissistic man. He was grooming me to be with him, but I refused because it didn't feel right. It don't feel right. I knew him in the past, but I saw flags. Wow, Ava.
mm,
And I saw flags in his behavior. He acted delusional about me, but I'm very wary of him. So, Ava, are you still in that relationship?
which I hope not, because a narcissist, narcissists can't even really. It's hard for them to even get help, with therapy, because they're so delusional that it's always you. And then when you threaten to leave, oh my God, oh, they're so nice.
Yeah.
So nice to get you back,
They're
and then they start
nice. They
all
get to
over again.
crying,
Yeah.
and and you're supposed to take them back every time. And that's you know what? My ex-husband was just like that. He would he knew that the minute, like if I left or tried to get away, he knew that if he actually held a conversation with me, that I'd be back.
Mhm. Mhm.
He knew that once I heard him cry, that I was going to take him back.
Oh
So
yeah.
one time I went as far as going all the way to another state to get away from him. I packed up my girls, went to another state to get away from him, and she's not with him. Thank you, God, Ava.
Yes. Thank God, Ava.
And he was literally at my sister's house every single day trying to find out where I went, because he wanted to hold a conversation with me, because he knew once I talked to him that I would be back.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it took me 8 tries. And statistically, once I reviewed and researched domestic violence, they statistically is 8 times you have to leave a person before you totally leave them. Isn't that amazing? Now
That is
I
amazing.
found this information out after I had already gone through what I had gone through.
Mhm.
They said 8 times you actually continue to go back before you physically like leave that person.
Yep. When he left, I was done. I don't. One time I did want to call him because I'm like I'm a person about closure. But then,
Mm-hmm.
my daughter, who has more sense than me,
It's
told me
listen,
that, Mom, what if he says something to hurt you again? Then you got to get, heal from that all over again.
yes,
So I said, yeah, but I just want to find out why he did it. Who cares? He did it. He
true.
did it.
A lot of people
Keep
look
it
for
moving.
closure. It's like, I don't need closure.
Honey, look,
I
I'm
don't even need
closing
you to
too. I need it.
apologize. I don't care.
Just
It's
keep
like
moving.
once I'm done, and like it took me to really like hit rock bottom, because that's what I called it, rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
even the people at the jail were like, why are you here? You don't look like the average criminal, or like, why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
And we had, once I hit that rock bottom, that was it for me. Because I was like, first of all, I never left my daughters. They were like 10 and 11, and I drop them off at school, and I don't see my girl. Man, I can smile about it now, but when
Mm-hmm.
I think about it, 22 days leaving my darn
Yeah.
daughters that I never left a day in my life,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
All behind
do
some
I really want
stupid
to do this
man.
again?
Yes,
No.
we know. No.
No.
And do I want to, like, have my credit ruined? Have my, like all my, I had to use all my
Yes.
money in the bank because they were getting ready to come repossess my new car.
That's
My
crazy.
phones. I did get out of the phone thing because thank God I had insurance. He signed my name, so he must have went there with someone to be the
Acting
girl.
as if they're you.
Girl, please.
He was all a scam. That whole thing was a scam, a total
Yeah.
scam from the
He
door.
had my husband's all his social security information. He had checks of mine, blank checks from accounts that weren't even open anymore. He just had
See?
every check from every checkbook that he could find.
He just scammed you, and
Yep.
that's so sad.
Scammed me big time. And
Yeah. And thank God it only took him 3 months for you to, deal with that, because one of my friends, she actually got scammed, and she was actually married to him. She married him and he scammed her from start to finish. It was all a plan. And
Yep.
she was with him for years. And he actually had to the point where her house was getting taken, everything.
They don't care. Because he wanted to get married. The first weekend that he was here, we went to Jared's. And I'm thinking, oh, he must have an account there. He going to go pay on his account or something like that. And, they come to the thing and they're like, oh, well, how can we help you? I'm here to look at engagement rings. I'm like, what? So he sat down, looked at this, and then he came back and talked about, getting insurance for the rings before he buys them. And that whole time, then he had already taken mine and my husband's ring.
Unbelievable. It's just terrible. But I just hope that, if there's anybody listening on here that, if you have these guys that you first meet, ask questions.
Yes.
Don't give them all your information.
Look them up.
Look them up. Look them up. Because some of us think, oh, well, I don't want to get in their business and I don't want to do this. Oh, you better get into that business. Get into their business. You better run them credit reports. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, for real. Because, honey, he even had, and let me tell you, he had 7 aliases. And he had credit cards in those names.
Unbelievable.
Honey, he was a long time criminal. The matter of fact, the detective told me, he said, Miss Stancill, if you knew this man's criminal history, you wouldn't have even told him your first name, not alone your whole name, your first name. He said, I am in the judicial system and I am embarrassed to say that this man is out walking the streets. I don't know how he is out walking the streets. That's how bad he is. Wow. I mean, he has a whole group of people that he works with. He doesn't do it alone. He has a whole group of people. It was a mess, girl. It was a mess.
Yeah, you needed to have written that book. Yeah, because, and hold that book up again. Listen,
this part right here,
mistaken need a copy of that book. Yes,
mistaken identity.
We all need a copy of that book, because not to say that, because thank you, God, I've been married to my 3rd husband, and my book will be at the bottom of this post too. Married to my 3rd husband for 15 years. We just celebrated our 15-year anniversary, and we've been together for 20 years.
Praise God.
Thank God. So for the ones that think that they can find a husband, we're only talking about our domestic violence situations with the past relationships that we've been in. We're not saying that all men are the same.
No, they're not. And don't look at all men like that. Don't look at them. And
all men aren't like that, but we're just telling you to ask the correct questions.
And look
don't
at those,
give out all your
flags.
Exactly. Look at the red flags. Don't give out all your information from the door. Don't move these men into your house right away.
Give them a different number. I didn't give them my real phone number. I mean, I happen to have a house phone that I don't use, I gave him that because I think it's somewhere in here
You
somewhere.
just have to be careful.
Yeah, you have to be smart.
Smart. Be mindful of different things. And you just gotta check them out. Check them out.
You do.
And I laugh about this all the time, and I say, God forbid if ever my husband and I go our separate ways, it's going to be a cold day in HELL before I get with anybody else.
Girl, look.
Because you don't know what you're getting into nowadays. There's too many ways to this computer and technology and stuff, man. I don't wish that on my worst enemy.
I think all the crazy people are on there. And unfortunately,
I wish it on my worst enemy.
The guy I'm with now,
even the ones you with now, you got to be careful and be mindful. Be mindful. Don't think it's never going to happen to you. You better be listening to those red flags because you never know.
Girl, please, you better check them out.
You got to check them out.
Check them out. Because they all come, like how we say,
somebody Ava want the book. She wants your book.
You better get it, girl.
Ava, we're going to have the information at the bottom so you can get that book because I can't wait to read that book.
Honey, I'm telling you, it took me a long time to write too because I was so hurt.
Yes.
And I was just bleeding all over the pages. And then I was just like, no, I have to help these women. I can't, they don't need to hear me crying and boo-hooing.
Yes.
What can I do to help you?
Well, I'm glad you wrote it. I'm glad you wrote it. So tell us in your words, where can we get the book?
You can get the book from me at Valerie@purposeforwellness.com. Just write me, tell me you want the book. I will send you a autographed copy for $20.19. Why $20.19? Because that's when the domestic violence incident happened. And it's usually shipping and handling, but I'm just send me $20.19 to Valerie. Well, contact me. I'll tell you where to send it.
Okay.
But I will send an autographed copy to you via mail.
Awesome. Now, what was that again?
Valerie@purposeforwellness.com.
Forwellness.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And you can get all my books from there.
Okay. So I put that at the bottom. And I'll already have it at the bottom of the YouTube page.
Mm-hmm.
And that way Ava can get the book and whoever else would like a copy. And also, Valerie, give us well, before you give us that, I just want to let everyone know that this is a bi-weekly show. So we're going to have another author on in 2 weeks. Oh, Ava says she got it. Thanks, Ava.
Good. Thank you, Ava.
And Levon Howard is meeting with us in 2 weeks. He is an author. He has a podcast as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's I don't know if he's a teacher or an administrator, but he will be joining us in 2 weeks. And at the bottom of this broadcast, we are airing on YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, Google Play, and we're also on Instagram and Facebook. And anyone who is listening, please remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube, the Arts and Authors Talk YouTube channel. That way we can hear more stories. These stories are now, all these years, I didn't even have all this information from you, Valerie.
Mm-hmm,
and I'm so glad that we actually had a chance to talk about it.
Yes.
I knew you had a story. I knew I had a story. And there's so many women out here that this can, help. So I thank you so much for joining us. And do you have any final words for us?
My final words are, like I said, my mantra that I say all the time. What I've been through will help you get through. My role in all of this is to empower, equip, inspire, and educate women to be all that you can be, no matter the situation, no matter the circumstances.
That's right. Well, I thank you so much. I thank everyone that is joining us. Ava, I thank you for your questions because, you know, I just like for people to be engaged. I
Mm-hmm.
like for them, I like for them to ask questions. I like for you to be able to answer these questions for them. So even if you have a question, even once this broadcast ends, please ask your questions. Valerie or I will get a chance to see them because we want to help as many people as we can.
Yes,
But
definitely.
I just thank everybody for joining us tonight and see us in 2 weeks.
Bye. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me,
Bye.
Kim.
Thanks again, Valerie. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.